YouTube. This is the first time I'm going live. Today I'm going to try and do a bow drill set, which I've had for a couple of days, and I want to see if it works out. So it's not guaranteed, and this is live. You can join in, post comments, do whatever you do, and we'll see how this goes. Try and lean you up there. So what I've got is a willow half board and a willow spindle. And I collected these about a week ago, and I needed to dry them quickly, so I put them in the oven for about 60 or 70 degrees Celsius for hours and hours. What I want to do today is check that they're dry and they can produce a bow drill ember. So join me. Turn this down a little bit. The first thing I'm checking is to make sure that the spindle's nice and straight. You can see there's a little kink at the top. I might get away with it. We'll see. So the top of this spindle will be going into the bearing block there. So I'll just trim it up quickly. And what you do is you trim it up to a point, but not a sharp one. And I can't guarantee how this will go because I'm not sure if it's dry yet. And I'm concentrating on the camera as well. Let's see how this feels. Put my lips on it now to see if it's dry. It feels dry and warm, but when I cut it, it feels a bit soft. I think the knife's a bit blunt as well, where I haven't sharpened it. I've just been using it away and not tidying it up after each use. It was terrible actually. See if I can get a different knife. Trusty Moira. See if that's a bit sharper. Oh yeah, that's much better. This is what you're looking for a bow drill spindle. That's it. You don't need an absolute point there, and you've got a nice long section here which can wear down as you're bowing. If you see this bit, the very tip is bang in the centre there. See that? Check to make sure it looks about right. Bit tidy up. And the entire length is just about shin length. See that? And we'll trim up the other end now. This needs to be trimmed up and also pointed, as it helps with the socket. Trim this up a little bit more. Put the knife safely away. And I'll show you here. Oh, here's the camera. There we go. Can you see how I beveled that now? And there. Right. that's the spindle set. Now to the half board. You can see, compare the sort of thickness to my wrist there. What I need to do is make a nice flat board out of this by battening it. I'm trying to get the flattest point of it and figuring out where to batten it best. I don't think it matters too much, to be honest with you. Just try and take it out there. I've taken a little section off there. I'll come around the other side and do exactly the same. There. Then I'll turn it over this way. Problem with doing it on the iPhone is I can't see any comments or who's watching or who's not, so I have to go over and check on the computer. There we go, we're well on the way. So you can see what I'm going for, a flat board there. I just want to trim it up. This feels soft. This feels a bit moist. But that's good to know though, because they've had hours and hours in the oven and I need to know whether or not they're going to be usable for the bow drill course I've got coming up. It does feel very green. Another way to tell is if you cut into it here, if that's green underneath, then you know it's still living. I'm cutting into it and that's all brown. See? You'd know if that's still living because it'd be green in there. I'm just going to trim these sides up. Not with that knife. That knife's terrible. There we go. Cool, this does feel green. I'm just laying it on the floor to see how flat it is. You see that? I need to get it nice and flat, otherwise when we bow drill it just won't work. It'll just jump all over the place. You don't need to tidy it all up like this in order to get the bow drill working, but it does help your chances of making a successful ember. You can just trim the ends up and get away with it quite a lot of the time. But this just improves your chances a little bit more. Not sure about that, we'll find out. We're well on our way though to having the bow drill ready. Thanks if you've stayed watching so far. This is an experiment with a bow drill set and live streaming to YouTube as well. And if we both enjoy it, I'll do some more in the future. Let's have a look. We're well on our way now. Nearly there. I'm not going to make this perfect. Just doable. Let me tilt you up a little bit. I've done 10 minutes already. Wow. Yeah, good, you can see. So what I'm looking for is it to lay nice and flat and the spindle fit nicely on there. And we're looking good so far. Just tidy that up a little bit more. Going around the back. Yeah. What we need to do next is make a depression in here that the lower spindle will fit into. And let me get this on camera. If we did it here, the chances are that as you're bowing you can pop the ends out once you cut the V-notches. If you do it a little bit further in, then you'll have a sturdy outer part here and you shouldn't pop out the notch. And I'll demonstrate. But first of all we need to burn the set in. Make a nice little depression like that. Drill into it a bit. This burning will give me a good indication of whether the hearth board's green or not. It'll give me a pretty quick answer. I'm used to collecting them dry in the woods as opposed to kind of force drying them at home in the oven. You can see there the depression's now starting to come out. I'll just pair it with the lower part of the spindle and see how it's doing. It's not quite flat along there, so to give the spindle a better chance I'm going to try and level that out a bit. There we go. Let's see if it fits nicely now. It seems to fit okay. Making a nice squeaking noise, which is really good for bow drill. Let's see what we want next. We're most of the way there. Now we have to make the bow. I've got an old dry bit of willow which has bent over time, and I use that as a bow at home. It's just go back here so you can see it better. I just use that at home. And this is starter cord. You can use paracord, but it just stretches out, wears out very, very quickly. You're lucky if you get one or two goes out of it. Shoelace is okay, but starter cord, which is just chainsaw cord, brilliant. You can use it time after time. It's very hard wearing. And then for a bearing block, an antlertine. This is, I think it's a fallow deer by the looks of it, and I've just drilled a little depression in there, and it's much harder wearing than any wood. And that goes into the spindle here, like that. So the next step is to burn it in. Thanks for everybody watching so far. I just need to tie a knot on here. Need to tie this off with something. What I like to do is lock off the knot so it can't slip. I just need something to do that. If that might work. can see the bows coming together now. They've just got a little notch on the back there where we'll hook it over. It's a little nervous time for me because I'm not too sure of the wood condition, as I've been baking it in the oven and I can't quite tell whether it's ready or not yet. But we'll try, we'll see what happens. I'm up for it if you are. There we go. You can see when you put the spindle into the bow, bottom end up, pop it round, and then you can just hold it and maintain it like that, and that's often forgotten or overlooked. See how I'm holding that? You've got control of it, so instead of needing to hold it all the time like that, you've got absolute control over it. There. Let's burn it in and see what happens. I'll move back so hopefully you can see me a bit better. Yeah, there we go. So, when you burn it in, you need to lock it off, lock your wrist off at the shin. So here, it needs to be locked just in there. And I'll explain that. If you're out, hopefully I can get a good camera angle. If you're out here, your wrist will be doing that while you bow. If you lock it right in at the shin, then that'll stay there perfectly, and it won't become exhausted. So let's burn this in and see what happens. Start off nice and gently to see what sort of feedback you get from the bow drill set. That squeak is the socket polishing over where it heats up. If you can't get past that, you'll never make friction fire. So always listen to the feedback. With a bit of acceleration, there we go, we're through now. And what I'm doing is just burning the set in. See the smoke coming out now? It's a really good sign that we've got a useful bow drill set. What's worth noting now is that if you check out the spindle, here's worn out, so I'm going to need to repoint that a bit before I go for the full job. Move this forward. And here's the socket. Can you see how deep I've gone? And that fits absolutely perfect now. It's not oval, it's perfectly round, and when it comes to doing the actual bow drill, it shouldn't bounce around and it shouldn't jump out. If you've got a bent or crooked spindle, it'll do that and you'll get a nice oval shaped socket. Now we need to cut the notch. If you enjoy the channel, subscribe to it please and share it. So we need a nice V notch in there, and that'll go down there. So what I do is I mark along here. I have to keep an eye on this. Around, and then I start cutting it out, because that basically is a score which you work into. Can you see where I'm going with that? It wants to be a nice V-notch. And I'll accelerate that process by sawing some of it out. You've got to be careful with the sawing though, because you can be over enthusiastic and quickly hack away far too much at the notch. So I've sawn just off centre there. If you go into the centre, you'll cut the notch into the centre, and when you're bow drilling it will cause a long nipple on the end of the spindle, which makes it very inefficient and becomes difficult to make the bow drill work. Now we just cut the rest out. What I'm doing is checking after a few cuts just to make sure I'm on target with the cuts. See that? How we're doing. Got to be careful with it. See how I'm slowly working into it? And I'm almost there. I won't cut much more out. When you think you're nearly done, try and clear out all the debris right in the centre there. So, that looks good to me. What I'll do as I start bow drilling is I'll keep a careful eye on it and make sure that the dust is filling up right at the bottom there and it's not just coming out on the sides. So I'll show you the final notch. There we go. You see that? You see how it's just off centre, so it avoids nippling the spindle. And we're back again. I'll just trim this up now. I'll check the bottom. You can see how it's charred the bottom of the spindle there and not polished it. You'll see if it's polished because that'll be really, really shiny and very hard as well. There we are again. That's looking good. What we need to do is find something to catch the ember which will come out of there. Let's see what we can do. I'm just using a bit of cardboard because it's dry and that will really help. If you use something cold or wet, then that's really going to make getting the ember hard work. And that lives just under there to catch your ember. Move this back. So if you've got any questions, you can send me private message, or I can't really see any messages now at the moment because it's too far away from the computer, but more than happy to help you out. The thing is, bow drill shouldn't be a mystery. It shouldn't be like it's some sort of Jedi bushcraft trick. It should be open to everyone to enjoy and be able to do. That's why I'm more than happy to try and help you. The core's a bit loose now, so I'll just tighten up a little bit more. This is not my favourite bow by any means. A bit of that's in there. We're in. See how I've got control of it now? Total control. Let's see if we can get an ember. No promises, but I'll do what I can. I'll try and talk you through it as well. Unfortunately, I can't blow it to flame if I do get an ember because I'm indoors and that's the only place for a Wi-Fi signal. I'd love to be able to do this outdoors and stream it live. Let's see what happens. You can see a good view there, I think, can't you? So what I'm looking for to start off with is seeing if dust is falling in the pan, and it looks good. That squeak is a polish again, which we need to get through. And there we are, we're through. See if we've got an ember. Might be a little bit too green. It should be interesting because it's almost there. But I'm happy to share this experience, whatever the outcome. It's good learning. So, I'll show you what we've got so far. What we've got is a fairly fine dust. There's some chunks in there and some browner stuff. Ideally it needs to be really fine and pretty much black to get the ember. I'll quite happily have another go and apply some real downward pressure on the bearing block to try and pop that ember out. But I need to retrim the spindle. But at least we've got most of it working. So what I'd say at this point is all the mechanics are right. We've got a spindle which spins nicely, we've got half board which will chuck in dust into the middle. The only issue so far is that it might be a little bit unseasoned to create an ember. The technique's fine, everything else is fine. This is a material issue. But I'll try and overcome that by going quicker and applying more downward pressure, which will create more heat and hopefully enough temperature, enough dust to get the ember. And that's it about friction fire. You know, you don't always get it first time, and it can be a bit boring if you were showing someone, you went out to the woods and you know you don't get it first time and you have to go out and make a whole new set, and that happens sometimes. I've done that plenty of times where it's just not been the right material. Let's see what we can do. Some of this stuff out. You see me okay? Yeah. think that's a little bit unseasoned. Let's try another half board. And just grab another. Oh yeah, I see someone's put up there, have I done a sycamore hand drill? No, I haven't. No. Elder and clematis, 2 years old, ivy. This is a clematis hearth, and I'm just going to have a go with this and try. Why not? Cut the spindle again. Ooh, I don't really like this board. Flat. I'll try and get a different board. This is just a collection I've got at home. This is a bit of B&Q pine, just for a bit of practice. By the looks of it, I've had a few goes on it, it seems to be okay. So what I'll do is I'll try the spindle on this and see if I get a different result. What I'll try and do is see if I can pinch out any existing sockets. Might be able to. That one doesn't look too bad. So if you can see, sometimes with a decent thickness half board, you can get a couple of goes out of it. So I'll have it. And this is my normal friction fire practice. We'll be trying different materials and seeing what works and what doesn't. You know, if you only ever see people like us who practice friction fire doing successful things, you wouldn't get a real or realistic understanding of how or what's happening. So with the remaining dust, you chuck it. It's no good now, but what I would say first is see if it would take an ember, and you can do that by putting a lighter on it and see if it will take a coal. Yeah, straight away. You see that? What I'm looking at now is seeing if it will continue with that coal and go further. I'll try not to drop this on the carpet. Can you see that? So it's nearly there in terms of seasoning, but not quite enough. So this has to get chucked. You can't mix bad dust with good dust. It just doesn't help at all. So chuck it, it's gone. We'll try this pine board on this spindle and see if we get any different. I might have another spindle to play around with as well if I don't get any joy off of this. But this is normal practice. Let's see if we get any different reaction from the materials. You might hear it work a little bit different as well. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it feels a lot stiffer already. Am I there? I'll do it right. Yeah. We're in with the coal now. I'll just tap that out. There we go. So you can see that change of materials has a massive impact on what you're doing. I think a lot of people find that is that when they're learning to bow drill, sometimes they've got terrible materials and they blame themselves for their technique. But you can see that changing over from the willow half board to the pine one has made a huge difference, even though the willow spindle might not have been that great. That is a raging coal, and that is why I love friction fire. I've had a lot of fun, and I hope you have too. Let me see if I can get real close up of this huge ember. There we go. Thank you very much for watching. I've had fun. See you next time.